Hi, welcome back to the farm. My name is Roz, also known as Passion Flower, and you'll find me here each week talking about my farming and creative life. It's been another super hot week. It's summer, so I guess we can't expect much more than that. And it's been super dry as well. Um, Spending a lot of time inside, air conditioning, and to the point that I don't even really want to knit. It just feels hot even with the air conditioning on. So I haven't done a lot of knitting this week, which I'll get to shortly. But first, last Sunday, we were just going about our business during the day, just trying to keep cool, and started to hear sirens, and the Vic emergency app went off, and within our 5K, I'm sure everyone here probably has their Vic emergency app or some kind of um, emergency app on their phone that shows where there's like fires or floods or whatever. So I've got mine set to 5K radius from our house, and there was an out of control bushfire. It was a grass fire in the end, actually, but yes, it was in a paddock not too far from here. I started to hear sirens go past. We're so lucky that there is a water bombing helicopter stationed in Hillsville. So it attended. Um, Being a Sunday, all of the CFA volunteers were out, with the trucks doing the cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So everyone responded. I think they ended up with like 22 trucks on site, but it still took them over an hour to get it under control. So, yeah, we were super lucky. But I was at that point where we're sort of looking at, what do we need to do? Do we need to just get some water sprayers here on the farm and check for any um, ash, or are we seeing what the direction the weather, the wind is coming in, and do we need to pack and all of that kind of stuff? So it was a little touch and go for a little while, but everything was taken care of really quickly. So that was good. So hopefully we don't get any more of those kinds of scares, but it is so dry that it's not going to be surprising if we do. All of the dams are so empty and the grass is super dry. And it's not been like that for a really long time. The last few summers, I can't remember being this dry. So I guess it comes in cycles, and we're in for one with no rain. And then since the weekend, the sky's been really hazy with smoke, and at times you can even smell it outside because it's been quite still. And being still is good because it shouldn't be spreading fires. But yeah, it makes the smoke haze kind of sit. I think it's mostly from those really big fires in the Grampians, and it's all just sort of travelled along. But every time you step outside and you do like smell that smoke on the air, it's a quick check of the app, or just a little, scan of the skyline to just make sure that there's nothing close by. Not a lot of farm work. I've been regularly coming down and checking on the sheep and giving them extra water and watering the garden out here in the evenings as well to try and keep it alive a little bit, hopefully. But yeah, their paddock is so dry. They're literally just on hay right now. There is nothing left. This area out here that I have locked them out of has got a little bit of green. So once we do get some rain, it should perk up a little bit and I can get them in there and hopefully give their main paddock a little bit of a rest. But going to be a long time before that is recovering in any way. But one morning, Adam and I did get out early and get some hay bales moved before it got too hot. We're still using our system with the tractor, and then me driving the Hilux and having the trailer on the back and doing the whole jackknifing the trailer to get the right angle so you can get one bale onto the back of the Hilux and then two onto the back of the trailer, and then he carries one with the forks on the tractor. So that works really well. I've got it into a bit of a routine now, and I'm able to get that all done quite smoothly. The first couple of times I wasn't sure which way I should be turning the wheel, but seems like I've got it all down pat now. The only other thing that happened around the farm is that I managed to lock myself out of my house. Not by leaving the keys inside or anything like that. It's a sliding door, so you have to like lock it from the outside in order for it to latch. But I'd locked it at the start of the day and gone out, and I came back, and it was around 8 o'clock, and I went to unlock the door, and the barrel was moving, but the latch wasn't. So they weren't like connecting together. Tried multiple times, couldn't get it. Got Deb and Seb to come and help me and see if they could get it, and they were having the exact same problem. So we had to figure out a way to break in. I had one of those panel dog doors that you can get from Bunnings that go into a sliding door. So it moves the sliding door back a little bit, and then you add the latch bit to that rather than to the original door frame. And so we're able to force the dog door open, and Seb, with his really long arms, was able to get up and flick the latch back up again. And then we tried the lock again, and it was still doing the same thing, even once it wasn't latched anymore. So that I didn't lock myself in or out at that point, I just slid the door closed and got a piece of wood and stuck it on the track of the sliding door so that it couldn't push any further, so it wouldn't like roll open for any reason or for the cats to knock it or whatever and have it open in the middle of the night. But then the next morning, I called a locksmith. I'm glad that I didn't have to call a locksmith after hours for an emergency call out. But yeah, he came the next day, and there was nothing wrong with my lock. I don't know what had happened. He checked it and did all this stuff, and he couldn't replicate the issue that I'd been having. He said it could have been potentially when it was latched, everything moved a little bit, and so then it kind of got everything off alignment, and that had what had happened. And then for some reason, when we just opened the door again, it stayed out of alignment. But he opened up the whole panel and he looked at it and readjusted the height of everything. And then in the end, we decided that we would take the dog door off because we thought that it might have been what had made it drop. And so if that part was moving all the time, it was probably going to happen again. And I, didn't really want that to happen. But then my worry was, now I've got no way to break into my house. So I was like, geez, this better work. So it's like sort of those IT calls you make where nothing's working and you call them and you're super frustrated and they come and they go, oh no, it's working perfectly fine. You're like, it wasn't working. I promise it wasn't working. So this was one of those occasions, and it seems to happen to me quite a bit, that kind of stuff. So I was really worried that as soon as he left, it'd not work and then I'd really be stuck. So we have taken it off, and it's now closing and rolling much better, and the lock has been working perfectly fine. So fingers crossed, that's not going to be an issue for me anymore. So I finished rescanning all of the olive and all of the mustard that I had dyed up the previous week. So it just needs to be labelled now. And this past week, I've done batches of lilac and batches of aqua. And I was going to do some more dyeing of DK yarn, but I discovered that I didn't have any DK yarn left. Stupid me. What I had done is I had a couple of bags of DK yarn and I'd put it onto the top of the box that had all of my stock yarn in it, and didn't realize that I'd used the last two bags of the DK and all the rest was stock yarn. So luckily, my supplier had some more, so I have put in an order and it should be arriving early next week. Then I'll be able to get the rest of my DK batches ready for the first market, which is the Yarra Valley Wool and Handicraft Show on the 30th of March. So I had to put a pause on the DK, but then I didn't end up doing anything else over here because it's been super hot. The next few days, I think, are going to be tolerable. It is overcast and only in the high 20s. So I should be able to spend quite a bit of time doing some dyeing. So as soon as I'm done recording today, I am going to get a whole lot of wispy lace in and soaking so I can get a whole stack of that done. And then maybe over the weekend, I'll even get a whole big batch of sock yarn done as well. What I always like to do for at the start of the year, when it's warm and things dry really quickly, is actually to get a whole lot of my most popular colorways dyed up and ready straight away, so that I know that I have some batches ready for markets before the year gets busy. So my plan is to try and get the majority of my yarn dyeing done for the year. Well, kind of, but a huge chunk of my yarn dyeing done in the next month or so, so that as markets come, I can then restock the things that are selling and continue to have larger amounts of other things ready to go. So that's what I'll be doing. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I have hardly done any knitting this week. I have done some, but in terms of noticeable progress on any of my current whips, there's really not much to show for it. I have done a little bit on everything and really like nothing on everything, if that makes any sense. So rather than show you basically the same thing that I was working on last week, so you can go back to last week's episode and just check the creative life section for that, I thought I'd do something a little bit different this week. Just to break it up in terms of next week, I'll have hopefully some significant progress to show you. But then I've also got some stuff that I can talk about that's still crafty. So late last year, a lady who I work with has stopped knitting, and she has done for a while, and she had some stash of yarn sitting, and she said to me, would I like it? And I said, yeah, sure. She goes, look, I don't know what the quality of it is or anything. It's been quite a while, and she said some of it she's knit with and pulled out, but she thought she'd just bring in what she had and I could then choose to keep it or donate it or whatever I liked after that. So I really hadn't had a chance or really thought about going through it. I just sat it down here in the shed and I thought, oh yeah, I'll go through it at some point. I started to do some tidying up around here the other day, and I saw the bag of yarn, and I'm like, oh, I really should go through and have a good look at it and see if there's anything that I want to keep or throw or whatever. So I have opened up the bags and I have sorted it into like the same yarns, but I really haven't gone any further than that to really see what it is or any potential like projects or whatever for it. So what I'm going to do is grab what I have and show you. And some of it's quite vintage. I know some of the labels are really old. It might be difficult to be able to figure out what weight of yarn it is, because I know some old labels didn't have that information on it. So I might be doing a bit of quick Ravelry searching as we go. So there might be a few cuts through here as I try and figure out what it is that I actually have. And I've got some scales, so I might do a little bit of maths as well. So I can kind of say, this is what I have in this weight of yarn and how much I have, so I can start to sort of think potentially about some projects that I might be able to do with this vintage yarn. But I think there's some good stuff in there. Firstly, sorry for any crinkling. Some of it is still in very old plastic packaging. I have a lot of this, which is, what is it? Country Trends 50-gram balls, Cleckheaton. Looks like it's 100% wool. Yeah. Sort of, it's that thick and thin type of yarn, and I have, this is a full bag, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so 10 in this one, and I think it's probably another 10 in here. I think it's probably the whole lot. There's yeah, they look like they're all intact balls, but I don't know what weight this would actually be classified as. Okay, so it looks like it's classified as a bulky weight yarn, so a 12 ply, and there are 42 yards or 38 meters per 100 grams. And I have 20 balls, so that's quite a lot. There's only a couple of projects on Ravelry, and they look like they're quite, looks like it knits up quite lovely. So the first pattern that actually comes to my mind is the Great Love or the Big Love. So remember I made the Little Love with the two different colored yarns that I ended up over dyeing. There are some chunkier weight versions of that as well. One which is sort of like long and has like pockets in it. So this yarn might actually be good for something like that I could doesn't really matter if it doesn't fit. I'd make a size that's much larger than what I would actually normally wear and make it like a big sort of slouchy coat, something that would be nice to wear over here during winter to keep warm. So yeah, lots of nice 100%. Oh, so there we go. And I'll try and get a nice close up. Next, there is this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 balls of, if it's what it says it is on the bag, it is a 60% wool, 40% alpaca in a 5-ply. So a sport weight. And they look like full balls. It's sort of it's not coming out true color on there. It's a slightly warm cream. Yeah, it's got some. It's not a white or a grey. It's sort of like a yellow, orangey sort of. That's a bit better back here. So that's quite a bit of wool. I'm going to have to sort of figure out what yardage it is to be able to figure out what kind of project to do. But that much sport weight yarn, I'm assuming, hang on, let me see what the weight of these are. Yeah, these are 50-gram balls. So 1, 2, 3. So it's 300 grams. So it'd be enough to make a vest, maybe a jumper, short sleeve top. This next one's going to be much harder to show you. There are lots of balls of this, all about the same size. This is probably the biggest one that's not in one of those hand wound ball. None of it is got any label on it, but it looks like it's got some fuzz to it, as you can see from the halo on here. Looks like it's probably a 5-ply. Lots of older yarn tend to be 5-ply. It's sort of those patterns where you can never replicate the yarn. You had to like buy the pattern book and the yarn in order to make the project. So this might require some swatching in order to make something out of it. But looking at it, there's actually quite a lot of yardage here. I'm just like pulling out balls and balls and balls of it. So it definitely has some potential as well in terms of finding a project. What I will do later on is weigh everything that I have and store that weight number in my Ravelry stash, and then try and figure out what it might be. But it's definitely thicker than a fingering, but it's not like doesn't really look like it could be a DK. It might be a DK. I'll have to do a swatch. Oh, and I'm thinking, as I was putting this down on the floor, I just started thinking this might actually be a really lovely yarn to do some color work with, given that it's got a little bit of grab, and I could probably get away with not 100% knowing what the yardage or what the ply was. So yeah, maybe some color work with another solid color that I have in stash. This next one, I've got some labels on these. So another one that I actually do know what it is. It's Paytex Boucle by Patons. It is 94% wool, 6% nylon. And it's this sort of yellowy, rusty mustard color. And it is, I'm assuming that this is a 50-gram skein as well. Well, that says 28, so who knows? Let's have a look. Another one that's got a ball band on it. Yeah, they're 28 grams each, a full ball. That's a very odd put up on a yarn. So, but it's like a proper bouquet, and they're actually quite fashionable at the moment, aren't they? So I have 1, 2, that's 4, 5, 6, 7, and some random bits, which these potentially could be full balls or close enough to. Yeah, they're close enough to being full balls. So again, quite a lot of yardage of this boucle that I should be able to figure out a project for it. If you're knitting anything in boucle or have some pattern recommendations, I'd be really interested because it's not something that I've ever knit with before. And probably not something that I would actually have purchased myself. So this would be a fun opportunity to try it out and see if I like how it works up. So just quickly searched, and it is a fingering weight yarn, and it comes in 28 grams. The last of the larger batches of things that I found is this Flare by Peyton's, 25 grams, 71% mohair, 24% wool, 5% nylon. And got one, two, three full balls, and then enough that's probably a fourth ball. Let me. It's a really pretty color. It's got like some sort of neon-y bright green, but there's also this dark green as well. Let's go to Peyton's. So on Ravelry, there's not actually any exact comparison to this. There is a 60% mohair, 35% wool, 5% nylon, which is a very close match to this. There is, so I'm assuming that it's this one. Yeah, there's a similar label on here. So I'm pretty sure this must be it. And this says that it's a DK weight. So a DK weight mohair wool nylon. So there should be enough to do something with this as well, which is kind of exciting to find these little treasures of older yarn that are still going to be able to get a good life. Now the rest is little bits and pieces. There's quite a lot of scrappy stuff in here. There's one of these, which is a 25 grams of an 8-ply South African yarn. Looks like it's 100% acrylic. So that could be good for some of a crochet project. Same with this, which feels very different to that other one, but probably is an acrylic yarn. A couple of balls of cotton, Milford Struts knitting. So two in this yellow and then one in a white. They're quite thin, so I think if I was going to make dishcloths with this, I'd probably hold it double. So that would be some nice squishy face cloths or dishcloths to make. Then we're getting into some super random, just a little bit of blue, probably a DK or a worsted weight. Little bit of cream. So this could end up being stuff that gets thrown into some amigurumi or something like that. This is a really pretty silvery grey colour. That's all I have though. It's a chainette ply. So I mean, it could end up being something, mittens or something. I have no idea even what it's. I guess this is almost a boucle. And it's sort of light blue and white together. Just the one of those. What else? Oh, that feels very squeaky, so I'm guessing that is acrylic. And it's grey, sort of verging on silver. One and a bit, no, they both, no, that there's no centre in this. It's been used. That could actually even be the centre of the same ball. It's got a little bit of fuzz to it, and it's quite light. Honestly, don't know that I'd use that for anything. There's quite a few of these. This is a crepe style yarn. It's Fontaine Crepe by Cider. 100% pure new wool. Superwash. That might actually make some good baby knits. It's quite a nice structure, quite fine. And I've got four full balls, and then that much. So that's probably another ball completely. Let me quickly look these ones up. So I'm not sure if this is the 4-ply or the 3-ply. No, it says 3.25 millimeter needles. So it could actually be either. So anyway, it's either fingering or light fingering. So that could actually make some good baby stuff. Oops, now I'm really dropping stuff all over the floor. It's going to be fun to pick these up. Sorry, this is going to creep a little bit too. And I'm thinking that this is actually what it says it is on the bag. And it's Regia 5-ply wool. And it is, I don't have no idea how much this is. It's quite loosely spun. A little bit rustic. I actually have some grey and some brown that is a bit more rustic kind of yarn. So I could compare it to that and see if it would work in a project with that. It's coming up much more navy on the screen than it is in person. It's actually a much brighter blue. But the colouring, that's a bit better, but the colouring's just not coming through, but it's quite bright. So it wouldn't perhaps, again, be something that could be good for colour work. Oh, and then this weird little random piece of a different color blue in the bottom. Again, no idea what it is, and probably not all that useful for anything, considering that that's the only piece of it. I might put all the really random second, like little skeins of things together with stuff that I've got for crochet, and I could potentially pop it in there for little pops of color that are needed for that. And then those bigger skeins, I'm actually going to record all of the details in my stash of the weight and how much I have. And as I've been doing with my stash now is actually going to my stash, finding a yarn, and then finding the project to go with it. So I'm actually really happy and surprised that most of this is going to be usable and is in really good condition. It's obviously been kept somewhere nice. There's no dirt all over it or anything like that, and it doesn't smell weird. It's all really nice. So I'm going to be happy to be introducing some of this into my stash and to try and find a really nice use for an older vintage yarn that has been sitting in a cupboard for a really long time. It's probably still going to sit in my cupboard for a really long time too, to be honest. And that's something that I want to try and do again this week, is clean out my yarn cupboard stash a little bit more. I am running out of room in the cupboard that I have. So what I'm thinking is, at the moment I have all of my pattern books and other notions and stuff on the bottom shelf in that cupboard. And I think what I'm going to do is move all of those out, do a resort of everything, hopefully create a little bit of space. It gets so messy so quickly. As soon as you pull something out, I put it back with the thing I'm thinking of knitting it with or whatever, and it ends up just making the whole thing a big mess. But hopefully I'll then make some space, because what I would like to do is actually, for the time being at least, keep my hand knit jumpers in there as well. Can kind of display them with my yarn, and then have the books out somewhere else where I will actually look at them more, because what I've been doing is actually shoving things in front of the books, like extra yarn. And so I have no idea what pattern books I have in there. I know I've got magazines and all that. So that's something that I need to do as well, is add, after, because most of my stash is now in Ravelry. What I actually need to do is add my magazines and books and all of that kind of pattern stuff that's not digital into Ravelry, so that when I start to do these searches, the first places that I'm looking are actually my own patterns to begin with, rather than trying to buy new ones. Because I'm sure that out of everything that I have, surely there's a pattern. It probably isn't. Surely there's a pattern that I could already use. I know there will be times where I will want to buy a new one, and I've already got my eye on a few patterns that I really do want to buy with stash in mind. But if I can use more of what I already have in terms of patterns as well as stash, that'd be really good. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for spending some time with me. If you're enjoying these videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and look forward to seeing you next week on the farm. Bye.